Hi writers, welcome to another Friday. Now today I want to talk to you about collaborating with your characters, and I'm going to share a little story with you. I am currently in the process of writing another novel that I'm probably going to release under my pseudonym Laura Rios. Because it's a romance. And so the story basically is these two characters meet at an airport. They both missed a flight and they start to have a conversation and talk. So he's kind of a playful, funny guy. She is more reserved. She's careful. She takes a while to make decisions. She's not very impulsive. Okay, so this is the way that I've written them. This is their personalities. And the idea was for their relationship to develop slowly. They start to talk. They start to just share a little bit about themselves and their lives, and then they slowly start to like each other. So I told my female protagonist, her name is Abby, that this was going to go slow, okay? But she had other ideas, and this is what she said: no way am I following your outline. And it happened during this scene that I'm going to read. It's probably going to end up being much different when it gets in the book, but this is my rough draft so far.
You have a story to tell, but you don't know where to start. Let me show you how to free your story. I teach you how to write and how to dig deep in your soul to release your story and make a difference in the world.
Welcome to the Julia Method channel. If we are just meeting, I am a women's fiction author, romance and women's fiction. I've been writing for over 25 years and am here to give you some tips of what I know. We are all learning together. I am just a little ahead maybe, or maybe a little behind where you are. I don't know where your career is, but I want to share my tips. If you have tips to share, you can as well, because I'm sure we all benefit from sharing what we know. So this little scene I'm going to read is from the hero's point of view. She limped and walked slowly. I felt bad for her, so I stopped and handed her my soccer ball to free up my hands. Come on, I'll carry you. No, you won't. Climb on my back. I will not, she said in a cute, indignant tone that made me want to smile. But I didn't. I picked her up and placed her standing on a chair. Then I backed up into her. Climb on. It will be fun. I need the exercise. She hesitated. I looked over my shoulder. Come on, live a little. I won't drop you. Though she looked at me like I was crazy, she hooked one arm around my shoulder and chest, and with the other she held onto the soccer ball. I grabbed her rolling carry-on by the handle and started walking. I feel like an idiot. Her voice shook, part nervous, part amused. I ran a little, swaying from left to right. Abby shrieked and held on tighter. Having her legs wrapped around my waist was a bit of a turn-on. Okay, it was more than a bit exciting, but I tried to focus on where I was going and not the inappropriate thoughts of turning her around so that our hips were pressed together. I ran the last few steps, and by the time we arrived, we were both laughing. Oh my God, I can't believe I agreed to do that. Tell me you didn't have fun, I said, enjoying the flushed look on her cheeks. It was the first time she didn't look stressed or worried. She gazed up at me. I did, actually. I felt like I was 10 years old again. She looked around. Other passengers probably think we're crazy. Okay, so when she says, I can't believe I agreed to do that, that was me, okay? I can't believe she agreed to do that, because that's not the way that I wrote it in the outline. That's not what I intended for her to do. And what ends up happening is that this is going to change the dynamic between the two characters, and it's also going to affect the future scenes, because now things aren't going quite as slowly. It starts to get into a little bit more of a sexy banter after this. And honestly, it's more interesting than what I had planned. So let me talk today a little bit about when characters take control of your novel and how that can actually be a really good thing for you. So let's get started talking about control. When we outline or when we storyboard our novel, it's only the illusion of control. Okay, so here is the truth about plotting and outlining our novel. It's a great roadmap. It lets you know where you're going to go, but it is really only the illusion of control. We really are not in control of our novel, because once we start writing, our characters are going to maybe push back. They're not going to do exactly what we wanted them to do. And in fact, it depends on how you outline. I outline very loosely, so I really don't know. I know what I want to happen in a scene, but I don't know the blow by blow, obviously, what's going to happen or what they're going to say. I'm putting them together. I know what I want them to do. but that doesn't mean that they're going to do it exactly the way I had envisioned. So you can chart and twist and color code every scene and every emotional beat, but that doesn't mean that it's going to happen exactly like that, and that's okay. So you might have this perfectly planned moment where your female character is going to forgive her ex, and she's going to move on from whatever happened between them and just move on to another relationship. But maybe when you're writing that scene, she resists. She's thinking, wait a minute, I don't want to forgive him. I'm still upset about what happened. This is not over. She's still angry, and that might be okay. There might be a reason later on in the novel why this will work and it'll make things better. So if it's not really changing your story, go for it. Go with what's happening and see what happens. Okay. Or you might have another thing that has happened to me is you have this sidekick, right? You have this side character that's supposed to add something to the story, but they're really just a side character, but they end up really kind of taking over a scene. And you are thinking, wait a minute, they're stealing the scene here. They're not, it's supposed to be about my main characters, and this other character is just so funny or so whatever. Then you need to do something, right? So usually I write it and then I will modify it later because I don't want them to steal the scene. But I might start thinking, okay, for some reason this character is really coming alive to me. So maybe this is going to be a second book, or maybe this character, I need to let this character have a little bit more say in this novel because I'm going to go ahead and write a story about this character because for whatever reason, this character's talking to me. I really enjoy this character. I like the personality. I like something about that character. So sometimes that happens. Okay, you don't plan for it. You just think it's going to be a secondary character, and it ends up being a character that becomes very important to the novel. Now, like I mentioned, this is not a bad thing. This is where the tension is, though, right? Between you have this perfectly outlined story, you know what you want to happen in the story, and yet there's this other part of you that is, because you are your other characters as well, right? But so there's this other part of you coming through the characters that is discovering the story sort of in real time as you're writing it. So you had this idea, your logical mind created an outline with all the perfect things that are going to happen, all the perfect scenes that are going to lead to this climactic moment it's going to unravel, the character's going to transform. You have it all planned out, but then as you start to write, your creative side takes over and it ends up going in a different directions. Your characters feels like your characters are taking over and you're losing control of your story, but it could just be that you're actually discovering the real story. So writing is a little instinctual. It's kind of chaotic sometimes. Our mind doesn't always want to stick with what you plan for it. And it's great when this happens, really, because what's happening is the emotional truth of the novel is overriding the structure that you created. And so when the characters are behaving in ways that you didn't expect, like my character Abby, I didn't expect her to go along with what the male character is saying or wanting her to do, and she does. I continued to write it because I thought, well, let me see what's happening here. Because quite honestly, sometimes it's a little thrilling, right? It's thrilling that the characters are doing their own thing, that my creativity is going in a different direction, and I'm not quite sure why, but I want to find out why. So I let it go. I keep writing through it. The danger, of course, if you do this too much, is that it could lead nowhere. It could lead to a corner, and this is where people get in trouble because you get to a messy middle where the book ended up going in a completely different direction that you didn't plan, and now you don't really know what to do. You don't know where to go from there. But it's also rewarding because you're getting to know those characters. You're getting a depth to these characters that you didn't envision when you first wrote your outline. So an outline is very cold. We really don't get to know our characters until they live and they breathe in our story, and they act and they behave and they make decisions. So it is very rewarding when this happens. So what do you do then when your character goes rogue, when they start doing something you weren't expecting? Well, my suggestion is that you listen. You write it as it's coming and listen to what the characters are saying. This is a collaboration, right? It's a collaboration between you and your characters. If you want to think of it a different way, it's a collaboration between your very organized and structured mind and your creative, free-flowing, chaotic side of your brain. So let's talk about characters as collaborators and how you can work with them without losing your story. So this is where it gets tricky, and I'm definitely not suggesting that you just hand over the keyboard to your characters and you just write whatever comes to your mind, because you're going to end up with that messy middle. You're going to end up with a lost story. That's not what you want to do. But you do want to collaborate. You do want to follow the characters and see where they're going. If they're going in a completely different direction than you thought, then obviously we need to bring them back. But if you've ever just written dialogue and just let your characters speak and let them do whatever they wanted, you probably notice, okay, this is getting rambly and it's not going anywhere, and I need to do something to stop this, right? And this is because when you are writing from your character's perspective, when your characters are speaking, it's all very raw. It's not anything that you have organized into an outline. It's not something that you've plotted for. It's something that's missing structure and shape. You will need to go back and edit and cut and really organize the whatever they're saying. You're not going to allow your character to just talk and talk and talk and go nowhere. We don't need a lot of introspection. We don't need a lot of dialogue just discussing the weather, or even if it's interesting dialogue, if it doesn't move your story forward, if it's not interesting to the reader, then you're going to want to cut that later. But you can let them go a little bit, right? So see where it goes. It might be super interesting. But here are 4 ways that you can collaborate with your characters and have it work. The first thing you want to do is you want to know your character's core desires before you start writing. So let me explain what I mean by her core desire. So your character has a desire in the novel. There's something that she wants. So there's going to be something that she wants for the story. She may want a job. She may want something very specific, but she has a core desire inside her. It might be to find love. It might be to prove herself. It might be to feel safe. Okay, so she has a core desire, and you as the author need to know that. So I know for my character, the one that I'm writing now, Abby, she has a core desire to be more decisive. She can't figure out what she wants to do for her career. Not really. She's a graduate student. She is writing her big thesis, but she doesn't really even know what she's going to write about yet. So she's just not decisive. She can't make decisions. She's all over the place. And I know that her core desire is to become more decisive because she knows that this is going to lead to success. So when she just out of the blue decides to climb on this guy's back that she doesn't know and be more playful, she is being decisive. And although I, as the author, did not plan the scene to go that way, something inside me or something in that character, right, knew that she had to make a decisive decision at this point, because this was going to be easier for her to make a decisive decision later in her career, later in the novel. But she needs to start making these small decisions now. She needs to be a little bit more playful. She needs to be a little bit more daring now, doing a little tiny thing, because that's going to make it easier for her later when she has to make a big decision. It's a first step. And though I didn't know that, somewhere inside of me, I did, right? So I knew what her core desire was. And so she wasn't really acting out of character. She was acting in the new character, the new person that she's going to become. She was taking a first step here that she needed to take. And so this that seems random wasn't really random after all, right? So I collaborated with my character. I let her do what she was doing. And then when she's, like I said, when she says that this surprised her, it also surprised me. I wasn't expecting her to do it. She surprised herself, because now she's thinking, wow, well, maybe I can be more decisive. Maybe I can be a little bit more playful and not so scared of making decisions. So my second suggestion is to use your outline as a roadmap or a compass and not a cage. You're not caging yourself in here and you have to follow the outline exactly the way you wrote it. If your character pushes back, if your character says, no, I'm not taking that job. No, I'm not forgiving my ex. No, I'm not doing that. I'm not making that phone call. I'm not doing this. Then just wait and see what happens. Just follow your character and see why not. Why isn't your character doing what you want them to do? Does it reveal something deeper about your character, a wound maybe? Is she saying something about her worldview, or is it affecting the arc of the story? So although you're not going to abandon the structure, you're going to be a little loose with it and allow your creativity to come through and follow your characters and see where it leads. Okay, the third thing I want you to do is to pause for a debrief. So what do I mean by that? Okay, so your character did something unexpected. Your character went off script and you let them go and you followed wherever they were going. Once that scene is over, stop. Don't keep writing. And have a conversation with your character. Say, okay, like, why did you do that? What are you afraid of right now? Why didn't you agree to forgive your ex? What outcome are you hoping will come from this scene? You might want to journal the answer. You might just want to have this conversation with your character. So if I asked Abby this, okay, so why did you do that? And she might say, well, I just wanted to have fun. I just thought, why not? What the heck, right? Or, what are you afraid of right now? Well, I'm afraid that if I am my typical boring self, that this cute guy that I kind of like will just stop talking to me. Right? So I don't know what she might say. That might be something that she's afraid of. What are you hoping will happen with this scene? Well, I'm hoping that, maybe I can get to know him better. Maybe I'm hoping to have some fun. I'm hoping to be more decisive about my life. I'm hoping just to not always think things through so much and just to go with it and have fun with my life. So this inner dialogue can sometimes clarify things for you. You can understand the motivation of your character a little better, and it'll help you with future scenes. And number 4 is to have your scene goals. Know what those are because they're going to help keep you on track. So you have your outline, you have your scenes, you have a goal for that scene. What is it that you want to accomplish? If your character is not going along with it, this is where you need to evaluate why not. So as the author that every scene has to push the story forward. If your character isn't participating, so sometimes it could just be that you are tired, right? Your character doesn't want to make a hard decision because you're tired and you don't want to write this very hard scene. And if that's the case, then you might let your character go with the scene that they're going for and then come back the next day and say, no, this is not at all where I wanted to go. We're going to write the scene the way it needs to go. But don't shut it down too quickly. Okay? Ask yourself, are we, closer to the goal than I think? So is the character closer to a revelation, for example? Are they closer to making a major decision and they needed this side, this winding road to the side before they could make their decision? Is there a shift maybe in a relationship that needed to happen and you didn't see that when you wrote your outline, but as you followed your character, you realize, oh, this needed to happen first. So sometimes detours are actually, full of gold. You might discover things that you didn't know about your own story or about that character. So follow your characters, pay attention to what they're doing, listen to their voices and their motivation, because it might lead you exactly where you need to go with that story and with that scene. So the point of this video today is to, I'm always talking about outlining because I do believe that you should, because it helps you as the writer to know where you're going. There's not going to be any surprises. You can structure it so all the important things happen. But I don't want you to think, because I definitely don't do this, that you have to stick completely to that outline or that you are tied to this outline. You have your structural mind, but you also have your creative mind. You need to let that creative mind also help you to write that story, because that's where, again, it's going to be much more magical. It's going to be probably a better story than just a cold outline. We write essays that way. We don't write novels that way. So try it. The next time that you write a scene, go with what your character wants. Just let the character run that scene. Or maybe take a scene you've already written and rewrite it just by letting your character decide, make decisions about what's going to happen and how it's going to happen. Another thing you can do is look at your outline and say, this is what's going to happen, and have your character refuse. Have your character say, no, this isn't what's going to happen. We're going to do it this way. And again, see which one is better. Sometimes the one that's more creative, that wasn't planned, becomes the better one that you want to stick to. And then sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's like, oh, the character, it just didn't go anywhere. It wasn't, like I said, sometimes it was just maybe you not wanting to write a really important scene because it was too emotional, it was too much work, you were too tired, and you took the easy route, and maybe you need to say, no, we're going to go back to my outline and we're going to do that. We're going to write this scene. So look at those 2 scenes that you wrote and ask yourself, is it better? What changed or what surprised you from the 2 different versions of it? I'm not, and it's just kind of fun, right? Just to play with it and see, what works better for you. So I hope this helps. I hope it gives you maybe a little bit less stress about having to follow an outline completely, or even having to write one. If you're not someone who likes to plot or likes to outline, then you might not have one, or you might have something very loose, and that's okay too. So I hope this has helped. If it has, then please share this. And when I say share it with somebody that you think is also a writer, or share it with on your newsletter, or somebody that you think could benefit from the the tips that I'm giving. And also like it and share it, and come back next week and see me again.